matters. This is a very unique subject matter in the sense that it's about high level. It's about how companies shape an organization. I want to share with you, and please, of course, some of you who have a lot of experience in strategic management, in how you shape your organization, by all means, please implement and please share with you what are the things that you want to do and so forth. All right, very good. Let's get started. I want to share with you my screenshot very quickly so that we can start the sessions. Wow, this is okay. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll just minimize it. Okay. All right, let's start the session. Now, today, basically, I want to explain to you about what actually is cause and effect. Sometimes we use terminology, we use words, and if you don't understand what it means, it becomes an issue, all right? And of course, basically, the key element is today I want to share with you why cause and effect becomes a very fundamental thing. A organization, doesn't matter small, big, or large organization, this is very important. Now, managing companies or many organizations 20, 30 years ago is really different from managing company today because we have much more dynamic, more variable, and of course today market is more disruptive. All right, so I think I want to cover this. Basically, there are three areas I'll be talking. Number one is, what is an impact of cause and effect, and what actually is a strategic map? Because some people ask me, Anthony, can I demonstrate without the scorecard? The answer is, of course you can. I mean, it's a question of, it's basically an overview concept. Business canvassing is also some form of mapping, but as I said, it's a different approaches and so forth. All right, so very important. Of course, then I want to share with you very details on step to develop cause and effect linkages. All right, so of course, my background, as you know, I'm a certified trainer in strategic management and balanced scorecard. And of course, my number of years of work with corporate strategy has gone back way back in 2000s. All right, and we have done a lot of work for organizations. Of course, please feel free because I'm going to bring with you lots of intrinsic example and of course, experience in the sense that we have helped organizations to develop their corporate strategy. Okay, and until today, many of them are still embarking on it. And you can see how it helps the organizations. All right, so very quickly, let's look at the impact of cause effect in a strategic map. So of course, I will start with key strategic, what are the challenges in a disruptive business world. Now, I have done a lot of work, especially for publicly listed companies as well. In some company, we do corporate strategy. What I find today is this. Because of the disruptive nature of business environment, and I even told people this morning to one of my future business collaborators that the COVID-19 has shaped us in many, many ways. All right, what used to work might not be able to apply in the next 3 to 5 years because the fundamental of business have changed a lot. The other thing also, because I'm doing a lot of work for some of the like I was in Johor Bahru doing work for a Japanese company, and you can see that there's a lot of disruption, even despite that they're doing well. So that means to say, in the disruptive environment, whatever, because you have to understand when you develop corporate strategy, it's always based on assumption, based on what you know, based on what you think is going to happen, based on what you project that how the business will be shaped. So in other words, it's very dynamic in the sense that whatever you develop today, okay, in the next 2 or 3 months, fundamental will change. So in other words, it is no longer adequate just to develop corporate strategic plan using the basic strategic analytical tool. SWOT is very good. Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, for example, or even the 5 forces by Michael Porter. Now, I want to be very clear today, this is not to replace any of these strategic tools. There is no one strategic tool that will oversee everything else. All I'm saying is that we need to do more now. The other challenges basically is in many organizations is we need to know what are root causes and what are symptoms. We must differentiate them. For example, if you have a customer and there's a lot of complaint, the customer will come in and tell you, oh guys, look here, we're not happy with this. My issue here, very simple, is it the problem with the call center? Is it the problem with the products? what actually are the causes of the problem? Yeah, they are problems, but we had to identify, is it a root cause or it is a symptom? Let me just give you a very interesting example that happened some time back. This is a telco company that spent about $8 to $9 million, okay, on an initiative to improve customer relationship management. See, okay. So they spent almost 9 months to put the whole thing into place. And what happened was this, they set up everything correctly. And I did mention this example, this is a classic example. So in Johor Bahru, the call centers, the service centers were set up very carefully. The customer come in and bang the table. When can I have my line? Now the problem here is it because the customer's department did a good job, even though they deal direct with the customer. But where are the cause of the problem? Is it because we offer the wrong products to the customer? Is it because we anticipate the wrong aspect of the customers? So sometimes we can say, oh, customer service, you're not doing a good job. It could be just a symptom, but what is the root cause of the problem is very important. The issue here is this. In today's business environment, we are full of challenges. And yet, there are certain elements which are complex matters that comes in. And worst of all, there's a lot of uncertainty. And sometimes it's this, we cannot know everything. There will be an unknown issues. Sometimes I have a client to spend 2-3 months to look at corporate strategy. But what is interesting that sometimes is that because when we do facilitations, we do brainstorming sessions, okay, we need quality information, we need to discuss it. There are 1 or 2 things, an element might be missing. So there will be unknown issues. So always remember, whatever you develop as a corporate strategy, it is never final because things will change a lot. So I think that's very important that all of us have to realize this, all right? Okay, number 2 is this. We have to achieve clarity. We have to understand the business environment at any situation, because sometimes we can develop, situation can change. So in other words, we have to understand this. Today is very challenging. So it certainly helps if we can establish the following thing. Now, I'm not going to go into detailed part of how I help corporate strategy organize to develop their strategic plan, all right? But what is important in my work, I discover is this. You see, within an organization itself, don't talk about large organizations, even medium size and small size. We have many challenges. We have many wants. Should I drive my business? Should I expand my business? Should I improve my productivity? Then actually, what are my major problems? And if my major problem is it hindering the organization or not? What is the interrelationship of a sales department and the business development department? And for example, the quality department. So in other words, basically we find is that everything within an organization, there is an interrelationship, either directly or indirectly. So it's very important that we have to come up with, because we have many objectives, but are the objectives interlinked together? Is there was a counter strategy approach, or is it canceling each other off? So in other words, there are not only one single objective for objects to do well, but within each department, within each function, within each processes, we have various objectives. And we're going to make sure the objects must be unison, must make sure it's going in the right direction, and how each of them impact the other. For example, I give you an example. If I'm going to have a business development team and I have a key account management. Now, does a business development team, their objective, have an impact on the key accounts? If we don't to establish this, it's like each of them stand alone. They're going to do the business, it's going to mean the account. I wish things are so simple. Things are not as simple as this. If the business development are not selling the right product to the right customer, the key account is going to have a lot of problems. Okay, but it might not be the business development part. It could be maybe the people who do the delivery in the operational part are not providing the right thing. So each of us have the objective, but we need to understand how the objectives are linked together. I think that's very important. The second part is create values. Now, in our organization must create values. Value means to say that when we do something, we know very well what we want to achieve for the customers, for the organization, for the various departments. So in other words, if our key objective is achieve sustainability and creating value, leading in a way how the various components of business are to be operated, becomes very, very essential. So basically, just give you an idea. So I don't want you to think very in a complex manner, but it's just that when we put a lot of things together, we try to build an interrelationship between all these various things within the organizations. All right. So this is very, very important. Understanding how each one impact another. How does production have an impact? How does production have an impact on customers? How does the customer has impact on how business development has to be done? So that is, to me, today is very, very crucial. A change of one element can have a change reaction into a lot of other things here. All right. So, which means also one thing is that we cannot look at strategy as a strategy. We must be able to tell a story. We must be able to relate and connect this story of corporate strategy to everyone, and everyone can understand, oh, why am I doing this? Because there is an interrelationship between how we're going to drive the directions. Why is that qualities are so important? Why do we need to make sure that we need to be very efficient in this particular element of services? So today, I think it's quite important that we must be able to not only top executive know corporate strategy, by that which you're able to cascade the whole understanding of corporate strategy in simple terms, in a story element. Whereby I'm going to show you how story can be told between an organization, within the organization, how things have to be done. And more importantly, how does the strategy is able to impact the necessary changes operationally? Sometimes in a certain department, some people don't want to change. We are doing very well. But the question, if you're doing very well, but if what you're doing very well is not going to help the company from the strategic standpoint, it's not good enough. So today, I think it's very important that we have to understand the various elements of how things has to be done here. All right. So in other words, today it's not about, oh, we need to know how we're going to drive, but more importantly, how do we help department? How do you help people in the organization to change as accordingly? It's not a question of whether you do well or not, but what you do well, is it good enough? Maybe you should do something else, for example. All right. Or maybe certain department need to do something else to address the issue here. All right. So that's important. So in other words, to sum it up, basically, it's very simple. It's very, very complex if you want to look at it, but it can be very simple. It's important to develop strategic map, okay, to map up the thing so that it's one of the first most important step, okay, to create value. All right, let me check. Okay. All right, so it is very important to able to create values and so forth. All right. So, which means to say today, some companies say, oh, we develop KPI. KPI standalone is not good enough. All right. What is important? So people will ask me the questions, objective or KPI? I always say very important. Objectives are very, very important. KPI is important in the sense that we can measure whether we deliver or don't deliver, how well we perform. But we also make sure that how well we perform must actually deliver the objective that we want to accomplish. All right, so this is a very important aspect of how we want to drive performance. Okay. All right, so very important. So what is a strategy map? I'll explain to you. Some of you who wants to go and look at Balanced Scorecard and what it is. Today, I'm not here to talk about the Balanced Scorecard. They are interrelationship with you. But more important, I need to explain to you what is a strategy map. All right. Okay, very quickly, let's now go back. I hope that's yeah, okay. Any question here so far? Anybody who some of you who might be involved in strategic development and so forth? Anyone got any questions? Yeah. Is it fine? If you're okay so far, does that make it easy for you so that if not, we can move forward here? Okay, very good here. All right, let's take it. There's no question. Anyway, there's always a chance that you can always ask me later. Not a problem. Now let's go back and explain to you what is a strategic map. Now here is this. Let's look at a strategic map. Now this material at the end of the session, Pavi will attach to you, and you can download the material so that you can see the materials and so forth. Okay, so you were able to know what are the materials that is there here. Now let's look at what is a strategic map. Now, as I mentioned to you, this has been agreed and established quite a long time ago that basically the way an organ, in order to achieve sustainability, is must create value. The company must have fundamental of how can I make value. It's not just a question of making money, but what is this company value to the customer, to the society, to the country for that matters. So we need to create values. Okay, how to create value? One of the best form of creating value is to use what we call the strategic map. Now, what is a strategic map? A strategic map is like basically an overview of all the things within the organization. Okay, if for example, how we want to grow the business. Of course, this is a very interesting representation of how we develop using the best tools. What the company want to do financially. Who are our customers? Do we know what the customer wants to do? What do the customer really wants? Once we know what the customer really wants, what is it that we are doing that actually serving the customer? In this case, can you see there are two sets of customers, corporate and small size organizations. So we need to understand this. So in many ways, we are trying to build an interrelationship between how the various components in a company serve the customer, and because you serve the customer well, you will achieve the financial result that you want to. So this is a very important aspect. Now, the strategy map also is helped to do what we call contradicting forces. Now, in an organization, it's not easy because there are always limited resources. Limited resources in terms of manpower, limited resources in terms of financial, limited resources in terms of what are the products that you can provide to serve the company, to serve the customer. So many a time, some of the forces are very contradicting because if I do A, I can do B. If I do B, it affects A. So by having an overview perspective using a strategic approach, it provides you a lot of storytelling. You know, straight away, you know, oh, okay, these are various things that affects how things has to be done. All right. So one of the powerful aspects of a strategy map is to help us to address where are the contradicting forces. All right. Next one, managing targeted customer and value propositions, which means to say, very important thing, these are my customer. Okay, these are my customer. What do the customer really want? Okay, what are the things that matter most to each customer? All right, for example, a corporate want to have a solution. Not only that, they want to have good backup, good support. They also not only want to have a system, but they also want to make sure that there is an interrelation with how things are delivered. Whereas a small size organization, on the other hand, costs are very important. They want to spend a lot of money, but they want to get the maximum you can in order to do that. Second thing is, please don't ask me to go and employ new people or more people to deliver the solution that you want. So you can see that even from corporate to small size organization, okay, of course here we didn't state the value proposition, wasn't shown here, but the fact is that each set of customers are very important. Next important is targeted customers. Now, target customer is not everybody who uses services are your targeted customers. Asia, for that matter, if you are a rich guy, for example, you still use Asia, but Asia will not spend money to go and court you, will not ask you to use your services. So you have to be very clear. Sometimes we provide a service to a particular customer. They might not be your customer in that context, but they are giving you financial requirement. However, you have to make sure that you deliver to the right customers. You cannot say everybody are your customers. So you have to be very clear about this. So in a strategy map, you were able to see a lot of things between basically who are your customers and what do your customers want, all right? So this is a very important part because at the end of the day, if you ask Robert Kaplan and David Norton, they will tell you one thing. An organization's survival is very much dependent on the customer, the target customer that they serve. It's not about how good you are. The question is you make sure you target the right customers. But the COVID-19 have changed a lot of things. Sometimes you have to look for new targeted customers because the one fundamental of business have changed. Two, you got to do a new requirement of the customers now. Where are the customers want to do and so forth. So over the last 9 months or so, even the last 1 year, we have changed a lot. We had to innovate. We had to understand it. So when we look at the strategy map, it tells us a lot of stories about the other thing. Determine how value get created and sustained through the alignment of the internal processes. After I want to show me that all the internal processes, we need to know what are they. We need to know which one impact with the other and how is it that is so important? So I will talk a little bit this in detail later part where we talk about cause and effect, okay? But I'll just quickly. Next thing is mobilize and sustain the process of change, the value of intangible assets. Who are the intangible assets? Always the human capital. So we need to understand what is it we need to do for the human capital? What skill sets we need to have? What changes in terms of processes or technology they need to acquire? What culture we need to build because of the changes in fundamental of how things need to be done. So there are a lot of things that we actually need to know how these things has to be done. All right. So basically that will provide you a lot of fundamental of how things can be done here. So very importantly. So one thing I like about the strategy map is it put every different element into it. It's just that when you bake a cake, you can see all the dimension, all the taste, all the smell, the look, the presentations. So you can see how each one affect the whole thing here. So in other words, basically is what we want to do is generate sustainable growth in shareholders' value to simultaneous complementary teams. Now, what are teams? For example, I want to share with you this. Like to grow the business is a team. Increase productivity is a team because we must convert into simple language everybody can understand. Because these are all very complex processes. So take, for example, there are several teams that is here. All right, there are several teams. Grow the business is one team. That means to say, I'll tell everybody, one of the key elements of what we need to do, we must grow the business. Yet we must increase productivity. Yet we must provide trusted, dependable solution to the and services to our corporate client. We must also at the same time pay attention that the small size organization, they want cost-effective, user-friendly solution. Now, teams are very useful because at any point in time, people can look at it in this manner. Then, for example, for the internal process, it's like innovate quality solutions. That means is that everybody quality solutions, we must innovate. Not only solution, but we need to innovate. We need to provide responsive services. These are teams. We need to develop operation excellence. Okay, these are teams, and we need to commit corporate governance. These are teams. At the same time, resourceful, competent, and high-performing team. And I'm sending a message to guy, we need to be resourceful, we need to be competent, and we must be always based on result and performance. So very important part is that this will help connect people to understand the various elements in an organization. All right. So that will show you what's a strategy. Then basically, what are cause and effect? Now, as I mentioned to you, repeat one more time, is we want to create, to state how, the next part is, how do we create value? Now here shows a lot of things, but how do we create value? So of course, the next important element, which is actually what the main talk of this free session was, a series of cause effect. We now must build not only just KPI, we must build a series of cause and effect, all right? Linkages among objectives, okay? First, within the four perspectives. So in other words, we look at the four perspectives, which means to say eventually we have to understand how each one affects. Now, don't worry about all these things I share with you, but I just want to share an overview. So we need to know who affect what affect what in the company. Everybody need to understand that where is the most important element in an organization. Now, guys here, don't have to worry about this. I'm going to explain to you. But first of all, I just want you to understand what is cause and effect. It's the interrelationship between the various objectives that we need to accomplish, how each of the objects affect the relationship within this element of the internal processes. Next, we want to create what we call a visual representation of a cause so that we can actually see the whole thing visually. All right. Next part is layer of details on how and the dynamic of a strategy. How can we improve clarity? Which means to say, assuming if I have an issue here of key accounts, customer key accounts, what is the interrelation of customer accounts? Now you notice that the key accounts are affected by many things. The key accounts are affected by the business development, how they sell the services to the customer. The key account also, in this case, like here, I'm sure top foresight is affected. What kind of advisory services are affected? The key accounts also is affected by whether we are compliant or not, because you're not compliant with the customer. Sorry, I'm not going to use you. The key account can also be affected by how people are delivering the services in an organization here. So in other words, very important, we need to create a dynamic, a detailed layers of various elements on how things has to be done. So in other words, we want to provide the missing link between strategy formulation and strategy execution. Now, this is actually the execution. Formula, we come up with strategy map. Execution is we build interrelationship. Of course, the next question is, well, this looks very complex. Actual fact, once you understand the mechanic, you can actually build these whole processes quite easily here. All right, so that will show you the various cause and effects as well as the strategic map. So that is the first step that you need to understand the various elements of how you want to look at the strategic and the cause and effect. Okay, so that is basically the first round that I will share with you so that you can see it. All right, now I'm open for questions. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, are you okay? If you're okay, just key a 3 for me, then we will proceed with the next subject matter. Everybody, just tell me. Okay. Okay. Have anybody ever done anybody who was involved in Balanced Scorecard or any form of strategy audit work? If you have, just key a 1 for me, so I know that one of the things that you have done for corporate strategy work. All right, never mind. Since that's not the case, let's go back to the key thing here. So now that will show the strategy map, that will show you the cause and effect. So you can see that basically I just want to share. Now, the next part, which is actually what is very important, is not only establishing cause and effect, but what are the steps that you need to do. All right. As I mentioned to you, these materials will be given to you at the end of the sessions. You see it by the end of the sessions, then Pabi will send you the link. Now, let's look at the various steps. Okay. I don't want you to be too worried about it, but these are something that what I will have do for any corporate clients. Okay, so just give you an idea. Now, first of all, very important thing is we have to create. First of all, I want to give you an overview first. Is that we have to create strategic link. Just a quick overview. So, in other words, we need to understand the cause and effect. Just a quick summary. We must also then create the cause and we must also construct what if then logic. Then there must be a way, is there logic or not? Very important thing. Next one is represent the most important driver within the strategy result. That is very important, just to give you an idea. Second thing is when we do cause and effect, there are certain rules that you must follow. You can actually go back and try. Some of you might have, some of your organization, I believe, might have a strategic map already. If you are involved in Balanced Scorecard, that you just take out your strategy map and you can see this. There are certain rules that you must apply. Is arrow flows up and across, means you cannot have arrow pointing down. So that means to say you have to arrange within each internal process to make sure how the arrows are flow in the correct. They must not be a feedback loop, and they must do not stand alone or dead end. In other words, can go up, then suddenly, let's say suddenly go up here, and then suddenly there's no loop. So you cannot do that. So that is to give you an idea how we will have to do a strategy map. All right. Then we have to construct the cause and effect, and it must be bottom up. That means to say, if you want to do cause and effect, what do? You start with the learning and growth first. So there are certain ground rules we need to do. So of course, sometimes I told organization is very simple, is that sometimes we do best practices. In life, we don't have to try to reinvent the wheel. So in the best practices, you normally look at the 4 elements and we just view the cause and effect in this manner. So first of all, you need to understand how this impact. Of course, sometimes we can go into more details, how we're going to do, but for me, for the learning and growth perspective, I will keep it very, very simple. All right. So this is to give a quick introduction of how we do it, and you can understand how we do it. All right. So once you understand this already, so I'll continue to show the same diagram so that you can see how the learning process is all about. The next part is step number 1. What is step number 1? Now, in step number 1 is this. All right. Step number 1 basically is that once we have built this already, we will always start with the innovation part. So innovation part means we will then reorganize this until, remember, as I mentioned to you, you cannot have an arrow pointing down. You can arrow pointing across. Like this particular arrow you see in my mouth is across, it's not pointing down. So what means to say, we will have to understand in this case, normally is when we do cause and effect, it must start from innovation right down to corporate governance. All right, so you have to develop from here onward. So in this case, we will then rearrange this. And what we discover is very interesting is everything starts from quality. So quality is your most important element within innovation element. So in this case, and quality is very important because quality has so many impact. Quality has impact on here, development. Quality has impact on consulting services. Quality has impact on operation. Quality also has impact on services, and quality has impact on corporate governance. So basically, these are just to show you how the whole thing. So when you do a scorecard, then remember, you cannot also have an element where, for example, I point out here and there is no more connections. So there must be a connection to build in this manner. Now, some people ask me, is it very difficult? I will tell you one thing, it is very, very useful. An organization can come together and top executive come together, brainstorm, discuss. And by the fact that you brainstorm on cause and effect, you learn a lot about your organizations. All right. So usually when I do work with company, I get them to brainstorm, oh, this is not right, this is right. Then they then have a better understanding how each one impact this. All right. Like for example, to grow and expand business and market segment, there are many factors. There are two factors affect this. Number one is that the consulting services has to be delivered. Number two is a training program has to be done correctly. Then this will provide the services and you impact the customers. At the same time, business development also has an impact on key accounts. So there is an indirect relationship in how you want to do that. So that is just one example on how we build the cause and effect in this manner. So please, anyone got any question before I go into the next part? Anyone got any? You can just key in here, key a question here, and just let me know if there's any questions. All right. Okay. If there's no questions, anyway, as I said, this is sometimes is this. So normally what I do is I will help company to develop from the innovative part, which is the heart of the whole thing, and quality usually from the very heart of it. After we've done that already, then we go to step number 3, step number 2. In this case, we will then look at services. So always remember, when we look at innovation processes, then we look at services processes. So in this case, we identify, and you can see this is a very interesting relationship. You see, like if you look at services elements, services management, basically there are 3 elements here. One, we've got to make sure that we provide service delivery to our quality service to our customer, and it will impact the key accounts. At the same time, to provide value-added advisory services, also have a big account, and key account will be able to deliver the service here. So in this case, so when we do the cause and effect, we don't look at what other element can contribute to it. You will look at what you can contribute within, in this case, service management, and whether it has impact on any other thing. And if you look at service management here, it's very interesting. For example, it has no impact on quality, it has no impact of corporate governance, it has no impact on whatever. Well, if you look at this one, you can see this one has a lot of impact. All right. So look, I'm not trying to tell you it's easy, but I will tell one thing is you keep brainstorming, you keep discussing about it. If you haven't got it right, you discuss about it, eventually you are able to get it right. So now you begin to understand service is a very standalone thing. Either service is good or service, but what affects the service to the customer, there could be other elements. And we know very well that to provide service to the key accounts, the impact of whether the business people are selling the right product to the key account is very important here, so that we can see the co-relationship. So once we have done that, step number 3 basically is to build to look at the delivery. Now here is very interesting. Operation excellence tells you many things. So I can tell a story now. Guys, you know very well, if you want to deliver corporate service or operation, you want to make sure you are delivering into operation excellence. It can also affect key account. If you guys don't deliver your job well, the key account people are going to have a lot of problems. All right, they cannot deliver their services. It's not because they can't, because of your failure to deliver. At the same time, when you're very efficient, we improve productivity. So I can tell a story and tell them. And if we are very operationally excellent, we are also compliant to corporate governance. So I want to share with you, it's so powerful that you can now actually relate the whole thing and how each one impact. And straight away, you can also see operation excellence has an impact on how we can get the businesses and how we can deliver to our customers, which in this case, corporation and small-sized businesses. That's how we actually strategize to understand a true story about the organization. So you can see first, we look at the process itself, then we see what impact it has on the processes. All right. So once we've done that, we go to step number 4, which will look at corporate governance. Now, then I can tell the story to my people that, look, we have to comply. You know why? If we comply, it also affects our customer, because if you don't comply, for example, I told you anything, for example, I give you an example. Assuming, let's say I need to submit, let's say a registered list to, let's say, for example, in this case, to HRDF. Now, if my people don't comply, don't follow strictly to the requirement, then my customer will complain, and look, why is it that you force me to do a lot of things? And here simply because there is a failure to comply. And when there's a failure to comply, you will have impact on the customer. And at the same time, you also affect customers, how the customer can deliver services. And of course, regulation also has impact on how things has to be done and things like this. All right, so that is basically the whole idea. So of course, eventually, we were able to see the complexities. So in other words, you don't build this, you actually build from here, you develop from here, then you develop from here, okay, you develop from here, and when you go back, you can play with it, and you can see this, and you come here, and of course, I can see the interrelationship between the various things, all right? So straight away, by doing so, for example, if you want to see this, so I can see the cause and effect. I can see what are the root causes, what are the symptoms. Now, let's take the same example I used. Customer complaint. The key account sections had to handle customer complaint. The question is this, is the complaint is a problem here? Is it a root cause or a symptom? Where is the root cause? Is it because the business people did not deliver the right services to them or not? So you need to find out. So in other words, no. Is it because the operation people do deliver the things that need to be done? So in this case, the key account is not a problem. The complaint is a symptom. The root cause is actually the operational problem. All right, so you can see this. Another thing could be, for example, customer complaint. Customer not happy with this. Now, why customer not happy with this? Because operations are doing very well. Actually, they're selling the right product to the customer. But unfortunately, okay, your customer don't view it as you are providing, CRM. You're not providing the enhanced knowledge of the services. You are not providing added value services in terms of how you can comply. So there can be many, many reasons. Or it could be, for example, the corporates, the advisory services people are providing the wrong advices. So in other words, sometimes there are many problems. So as an organization, we need to identify, is it a symptom by itself or is it a root cause? So that's why building cause and effect actually provide top executive a lot of dimension to troubleshoot. Instead of, if you don't have, let's say, cause and effect, then we'll sit down and what's the cause of the problem and we start pointing finger, who's the problem? So by using cause and effect, we prevent organization from pointing fingers. Everybody sit down, highlighted the problem. Where is the problem? Okay, maybe operation is doing okay, but because the project people are not doing the right thing. So we can start with, hey, operation, this one has a problem, but why is the problem? Could be caused by many, many factors. So I just want you to understand that, look, this is very powerful. It helped me a lot and helped me on corporate client a lot because then they can troubleshoot. And when I say time-based, because sometimes I need to know what are the problems, all right? So I can sit down. 6 months later, I might have another problem. Hey, same problem again, customer complaint. So in other words, if there's a complaint of some services, it could be now not operational thing. If maybe they discover that this particular business people are not selling the wrong product to the customer, and that's not what the customer wants. So in other words, then we know what's the root cause, what is the symptom, what are the root cause, and so forth. So basically, I just want to share with you so that you can see. So we need to know the symptom, all right? We need to know the root cause, all right? And the other thing, very important thing, is that you also provide you what we call team. So in an organization, we cannot explain this to everybody, but I want to tell people, number one, internally, guys, you must innovate. Very important. And when you innovate, I want quality solution. I don't want just a solution. Quality solution, when you innovate, please make sure that the thing have no problem. And I can tell one thing, this have helped us so much, because in the last 1 year, we have innovated so much. And when you innovate, we make sure the products must be of quality, the solution must be of quality. At the same time, my people know very well, we need to provide responsive services. If that's the problem, okay, what is your goal? You need to provide responsive services. At the same time, we must be operational excellent. And then please comply to rules and regulations. Doesn't matter whether it's government set already or whether it's some rule like HRDF rules and things. Don't complain about it. Let's see what we can do about it and so forth. Then, of course, we can eventually drive what do the customer want and what is the end result of the organization. So in other words, when you develop corporate strategy map, it provides you a lot of information. When you do cause and effect storyboarding, now we can tell a story. So in other words, I can actually pick it up. Take for example, I can pick it up 6 months later. Guys, let's look at it. Where are our problems? I can use this many times. It's the time-based thing. I can use it 6 months later. I can use 1 year later. I can, hey guys, I think there's a changes here already. This is not what actually the customer wants. So always remember, when we do corporate strategy, it's not an end by itself. Corporate strategy is a mean for organization to understand the dynamic nature of the business, but with a very structural way of looking at organization from various dimensions and various perspectives. All right. So that is to give you an idea. Now, today, as far as I'm concerned, I just want you to have an idea what the whole thing is all about. And basically that is, so you can actually play it. Now, what I show you is exactly what we are using in our organization, so that you can understand how the dynamic nature of a problem. Sometimes some people would tell me we have a problem on this one, the service people are not doing a good job. I will tell them one thing, is it really so? If you actually analyze why the customer complaining so much, okay, why these projects have a problem, okay, it could be many factors. I could do a project, actually what's the problem, what causes the problem, all right? So in other words, we want to see the interrelationship of various things and so forth here. All right. So that will give you a quick overview of step to develop cause and effect linkages. 1 second, please. All right. This will provide you cause and effect in create linkages. Okay. Now, if there's no questions, if everybody is quite clear, just key. You can key a question. You can say, okay, Anthony, I don't understand it. Just key into it and then please tell me and I'll try to answer those questions. All right. Okay. Okay, if there's no questions, I will now move back. Let's go back here. So please, this is actually what is. Let me just give you my final thoughts, okay? Which is very important. I give you my final thoughts. Now, to conduct strategic planning exercise, there are many strategic development and audit tools, as what Ziad has mentioned, as what I've mentioned. And one of the most powerful tools to develop strategy map is actually the Balanced Scorecard. Okay, so Balanced Scorecard is one of the strategic tool, but usually when I help company to look at strategy map, I don't just use Balanced Scorecard. Please, I want you to be very clear. I use many elements of it because we cannot just only use one tool. But of course, to develop strategy map, Balanced Scorecard is a very good tool. So take, for example, if I help company to look at corporate strategies, I don't just use the Balanced Scorecard, but to develop a strategy map, Balanced Scorecard is one of them because it was able to create what the cause and effect fundamental. So I want to clear the air, please. We are not here just to do the Balanced Scorecard. I'm trained to look at corporate strategies from a very wide dimensions. Sometimes when I do work for client, even though I do, I can actually do, for example, look at environmental scanning. If let's say the certainty will not do here, if sometimes my client say, okay, actually we have a challenge with our competitors, so I will do a competitor analysis. Sometimes we got a problem with maybe vendor aspect of it. Then I say, okay, let's look at 5 forces of competitions. So please remember, I'm not here to teach you Balanced Scorecard. Please remember, I'm here to use Balanced Scorecard as one of the tools to build strategy map. So it's very important. So in other words, so some people ask me, small business size enterprise, can we use balanced scorecard? Some people don't use balanced scorecard. It's very complicated. Look, a tool is a tool. It's just an enabler. But you need to understand what to do. But in my opinion, okay, after working with organization way back in 2000, 2005, 2006, and so forth, I will tell you one thing is this. If a company is small, okay, medium size, small, and you don't have a lot of resources and things like this, let me tell you this. You don't have the resource, you don't have the time, okay? The best way to do is to use the balanced scorecard methodology, okay? Why? For simple reason. In the shortest possible time, you can come out a lot of information. You actually can come up with strategic, comprehensive information. You can actually have some ideas of corporate strategy. So for small, medium-sized company, this is a fantastic thing. If, very important, because if you, of course, implement well, number one, it provides very strategic clarity. And more important thing is it gives the organization to able to execute the strategic plan, not just come up with formulation. Formulation is very easy. I can formulate a lot of things. So I find many companies create formulation, but the question is, how do you execute it? Okay, so in my opinion, scorecard is actually one of the tools. But of course, if I were to do work, bear in mind, I just don't use scorecard alone. But for creating strategic cause and effect, definitely scorecard, balanced scorecard is the tool that I will use for it. Now, that is provided it is executed with the correct approach. I have to say this, I'm very sad because in the industries, there are many people who do balanced scorecard, all right? Now, very important thing. You cannot use the 4 perspective, of course, in the 4 and try to develop output. I personally find this is totally incorrect because I have seen many companies, oh, do you do balanced scorecard? Yes, but when you look at the balanced scorecard, they use the 4 perspective. It is incorrect, it is misleading, it is dangerous because there are a lot of information that you need to establish. So some people say, okay, some people, well, Anthony, your method is complex. It is so simple, it just means 4 perspective. My question is, I don't know what you want. You want to have clarity or you want to look at something simple to develop? Let me just share with you this. Anything that's easy, okay, is not worth doing. And normally it doesn't get you very far. All right. Effort has to be done. But of course, it must be guided effort. So in other words, the 4 perspective, you must be very clear. It must provide you strategic information, not just 4 perspective, but in a cohesive, meaningful, and strategic manner. This is, to me, a very important part because this will link to exactly what we were looking at. All right. So as a result of using the wrong approach, there are many poorly developed corporate balance scorecards that have no strategic fundamental at all. I myself have experience doing work for many organizations when they ask me to do an audit. All right. You will find very interestingly that there are many issues here. Okay. All right. I have a few questions here. So I'm going to, is root cause identified only after the effect is noticed? Okay. First of all, I just want to share there's a question. So I want to understand, share with you the question first. Now, root cause, sometimes root cause are not easy to be identified. Usually the problem arises. But the question is, if there's a problem, what actually is the cause of the problem? Okay, and the problem is that it could be many, many things. So in order to do a root cause, we really need to know and write down as where is the interrelation, who is affecting the customer, directly or indirectly. Take, for example, remember, I like to use the word customer complaint. What is affecting the customer? There's so many elements. 1, the key account people are not doing the right thing. 2, the product that the customer receives is actually not what the customer wants. That's why the customer are not happy. 3, it is what the product the customer wants, but the people who deliver it every time delay, so customer become very unhappy. So I want to understand. So basically, it's when customer is not happy, it's just a symptom because usually symptoms are due directly. So Ruben, thank you for the question, but that is basic. Okay, the next question, how do you create alignment from top management to everyone in the company? Now, okay, that's a little bit more complex in the sense that to create alignment is like this. When you have the strategic map, first thing first itself is an alignment. But how to align to everybody? Okay, there are other things that you need to do. But as the big picture point of view, I call this an overview picture. So normally, if I will tell people, how do you do alignment? I ask you, where's your contribution? Your contribution is where? So some contribution is not so simple at all. I only do quality. I could be in quality. I could also involve operation. Some people could be in services and they know, okay, same thing. So when you do a cost effect, I want to tell people, look, it's not just servicing the customer. You must make sure you deliver the quality work. You've got to make sure that, when you give the report to the customer, make sure the report must have all the fun. Don't simply just a simple report and the customer is happy about it. All right. So Ruben, I hope I answered your question, Ruben. Okay, Bianca. Okay. Bianca asked the questions. I'll just try to answer a few questions. Yes. Who is supposed to be involved in development of the balanced scorecard? Bianca, I will tell one thing. Look, if I were to do an exercise, the very top people must be involved. Normally, the people involved had to be the CEO, the CFO, and those directly report to the CEO, and who actually going to play a significant role in where the company is going to move in the next 4 to 5 years. So in smaller companies, I think you have a bit more challenges in the sense that in big company, usually when I do an exercise with a client, I will have about 20 people, the GM, the senior managers, and so forth, are those who are a very important part. Now, the other thing, very important part is this. So in a smaller company, okay, you have fewer people. So as a CEO, as a CFO or CFO, CEO or CEO for that matter, the top is normally in a small, medium size, you don't have many top executives. But normally the people who need to be involved, number one, first, the top level has to be involved. Number two, there are some people in your organization that you have identified who is going to be your future talent. I will normally get them involved. All right. So that is a very important part in scorecard development. Bigger organization, I don't have much of a problem. Smaller organization, because we do brainstorming and so forth and things. I will share with you something on that aspect of it. All right. So that will give you an idea about it. Okay. So that will share with you several things here. Okay, Bianca, I hope that I share with you. But let me go back to these things. I always feel to answer your question is very important. Now, I want to advise many of you this. Don't be happy when you think you have a balanced scorecard. All right. Sometimes I prefer that you don't do it if it's wrong, because it will mislead you and give you a wrong impression to say that, oh, actually scorecard is not lousy tool. A tool, I always believe, is depend on the user. A tool is just a methodology. If the user don't know how to use the tool, no matter what tool you do, you will have a problem. Okay. Now the next question: how do company measure the 4 perspective? Okay. Now to measure the 4 perspective, Bianca, is that usually I work with a client. We will eventually, you see, we don't develop performance metric first. We don't develop performance metrics first. We build out the whole cause and effect plus the strategic map. After we have done that already, then only then we put performance metrics into each of the objective within the 4 perspective. All right. So now you can see, for example, let's say I want to measure business development. Maybe one of the measures I want to do is I could be measure revenue, or I could measure number of account close, things like this. It might be 1 measure, 2 measure. The key account could be, I could be measured in the sense that how much responses customer has done. Quality will be very easy. I could be measured quality in the sense that when we do a product development, let's say, for example, if I have a software, I want to make sure that my software don't have a lot of problems. So I measure by number of defects. I measure number of return of certain products that I want to do it. I give you an overview because every company from one industry, the fundamentals are very, very different. Okay. So, but because today we talk about cause and effect, I didn't go into details how you need to do it. But after I can show some examples. All right. So very important part is this. So I hope, Bianca, I have answered your question there. I think that's important. Just to let you know that. Okay. Now, actual fact, there are also very important output that you need to establish when you develop the corporate scorecard or come up with strategy map. Now, one of the things I always tell companies, first thing first, you better know who are your targeted customers. This is fundamental. Not everybody are your customers in the sense that they use your services. Yeah, they're your customer, but this customer will not take your business very far. Not everybody requires your customer. So we have to be very clear. Targeted is like I always tell people, when you fall in love with a woman, all right, a lady, okay, you fall in love with a guy, you will work very hard to pursue them. So when we say target customer, it's like pursuing someone that you love very much. So when you have a target customer, assuming they don't use a service this month, they don't use the service 6 months later, they don't use the service 1 year later, you will always keep them in mind and the question, how am I going to close them? That's called target customer. They don't give a business, but you will never let them go. But for example, I can have a customer, he comes, he uses the services, and suddenly 6 months later, he decides to leave you. But because they are not your target customer, because it has no impact to your future strategic direction, I will not waste my time to pursue him. If somebody complained to Tony Fernandez, hey, your Asia service sucks, things like this. Then Tony had to decide, for example, hey, is he my customer? He's not my customer. I said, oh, sorry, we'll do our best I can. So whether he's going to use the service of Asia or not, Tony Fernandez was not going to worry so much because Tony is very clear who are his target customers. So in other words, we also need to know the value propositions. In other words, very important, like, okay, just I show you this. These are our targeted customers. Okay, these are two of them. So as far as top size is concerned, we have corporate, we have small size organizations. And then we look at what are the value propositions. So in other words, building relationships, services, quality, functions, is very important. Small size company, price is very important. We've got to make sure it must be cost effective. We must make sure that, okay, services are still there, but generally it's more functions, more pricing aspect of it. So it's very much an operational aspect. Here you can see, I don't build so much of relationship. I provide services. But here it's about knowing the CEOs, knowing the people you work in the company is fundamental. Here is price is very fundamental. So these are normally a relationship aspect of it. So that will give you an idea about who are your target customers. So sometimes when a customer comes in, and then, for example, I have many cases, people will come, Anthony, I have a program, would you like to do or not? Okay, I will quote them if I have an expertise, I quote them and things like this. And if they don't use my services, I'm very happy. Okay, but if I knew very well they're going to be my future customer, I will quote them, I will still keep in mind, continue sending information about my services until one day say, Anthony, I want to use your services already. So you follow up on this customer become very, very important part. All right, so that I provide you an understanding of what our target customer. Guys, for me, this is fundamental. Irrespective of whether you use balanced scorecard or not, or whatever it is, I always have this will determine the success of your business. All right, number two, internal processes. I think I'll show you already. So one of the important part we need to do is we will then identify. Please don't get this wrong impression. Internal processes are department. No. In a smaller company, you cannot have a key account department. You cannot have an advisory department. You cannot have a support services department. But then you need to have a processes in which how these are interlinked together. Of course, in some organizations, they have program development departments. So what happens? There's a department, there's a process. But sometimes in large organizations, they have a department, actually no processes. You'll be amazed because I do a lot of work for companies. I want to tell one thing. So to me, a key internal processes is not a department thing. Some people are about company very small. How can I have department? No, don't get it wrong. My company are not very big. We have about 6 of us. But then we don't have all the, but we have good processes. We have processes. So I am a very good representation of a small company. All right. So in other words, I'm not here to tell you what to do. So in other words, it's very, very important part. All right. Third part is strategic mapping. Now, you already know that I covered this already. So in other words, we will do a strategic mapping. So we call storyboarding, cause and effect. Okay. So that is very important. It's just to show you simple analysis of cause and effect here. All right. Okay. So this is what you, and the fourth part, very important, performance metrics. Yeah, I can't remember, I told you, we will eventually still have to do. It's no point you develop. You see, you can develop your overview perspective. You can develop your canvassing, you can do a perspective. But eventually, we need to measure performance. So in this case, we will eventually come up with what are the metrics you need to do, what are the services, what are the things you need to acquire. So sometimes there are many elements. Of course, you can see your target, so you can see how target is established. So I show some example how sometimes we establish targets and things like this. So that will determine whether we are successful, and at the end of the day, we can actually measure the performance of a company in that perspective here. All right, so that will give you an idea here. Now, the good news for every one of you is this. Now, we have come up with education series program. Okay, sorry, this is, let's talk about, okay, let's go back. Let's go to our programs that I'm going to organize. Sorry, I'm going to cover this first. Now, in December, we're going to come up with a program, all right, which we're going to cover on, we have a program called Developing Strategy Plan using the Balanced Scorecard methodologies. I'm going to come up with this program. So in this program, we're going to learn a lot of things here. All right, we're going to show you what are the things, okay, how you can actually not only develop a strategic map, not only develop cause and effect to do this. So this is actually, okay, this is actually programs that we are organizing. All right. Now, this program that I'm organizing, this is the first time that I'm doing for small, medium-sized enterprise. Because for large organization, if you want me to do this exercise, it will easily cost you 40,000 and above. All right, you cost you to 40,000 and above. And what is interesting, these are the learning objectives. You can see how we're going to do it. Remember, I told you the cost and effect, so I already emphasize it, so I'm not going to share with you what you need. But more important thing, you're going to get a lot of things. I'm going to provide you learning tools, dynamic learning tools, so that you can see the learning tools, how it's going to be done. We're going to provide you the development tools. So we have development tools, how the things you can develop and on the tools, all right? So you can have it. We're going to give you target setting so that you can actually set target for the organizations. Okay, how the target need to be set. So, sorry, I shouldn't be doing this. My apologies. Actually, I go into the system and then I'm going to off it. Never mind, I'm not going to do it. All right. So you can actually see how the things has been done and so forth. All right. How do I go back here? Return. So I have to return here. So I can actually do a lot of things. Okay. What is most important is at the end of the day, whatever you need to do, my duty and my job is to help all of you to set up the whole scorecard. And by end of January, you will have a clarity about where the business you want to go. Now, interestingly, who should attend? All right, as I mentioned, CEOs, Chief Strategy Officer, senior managers who are involved in strategic planning, okay? Manager, executive from a strategic unit, if you have. Transformation team, very important. Most important, the SMEs, the small, medium-sized enterprise, okay, where you are fairly small, medium-sized, you should attend these sessions, okay, or anyone involved in corporate spirit implementation exercise. So basically, and this is the programs that we are running in December to January. All right. What are the investments? All right. Okay. Those who have registered earlier, you get a better rate. So basically, it will be two participants. Original price is about 8,000. Early bird, you get 5,000. You have the saving on 2,000. All right. So you can see that is, sorry, I think I've changed. Before 19 November, okay, 2021. So if you read before 19 November 2021, you get a saving. And the dates are all fixed already. Okay, but I want to tell one thing. Whoever want to come in, I want you to know very one thing is you must be serious. You have to be serious. Serious means I expect you to complete all the 10 days. All right. You're not supposed to miss any dates. You have to be serious because every date, every sessions, they'll lead to an output. From one output, you lead to an output. By the time you complete on the 21st, all the corporate strategy output will be developed in this sense. All right. So that is actually a week session, but over 10 days. So this one, I will tell one thing is, it's a very special session. Okay. It is meant for small, medium-sized enterprise, especially large organizations. Okay. Normally we'll do an internal intervention. But if you're a small, medium-sized enterprise, I will encourage you to attend this program because you pay only $6,000, $5,957. Okay, you will have two participants who come for the program, and you will learn everything about what are the things you need to develop here. So these are very important things. That means you will complete your strategic map, you know your target customer. And what is also useful, because you could be analyzing, say for example, I give you example, on the 3rd of December, we can start analyzing the customers. And then as we analyze, you can submit the thing to me. And if there are certain fundamental incorrect, I will ask you to correct it. And who knows, maybe by the 6th of January, you are crystal clear about who you want to target. Please remember, don't sell to everybody. Sell to the people who you want to be your customers. All right, so this is a very interesting program, because this is the first time I've done actually in this case, because most of the time, company will ask him to do an intervention. So my intention was to help small, medium-sized enterprise, because it ranges from 40,000 right down to maybe 200, 300,000. So we've done job for company where they're actually doing intervention. On top of that, you attend a program after the January, I still provide you 1 to 2 months of constant, like say for example, advisory services if you need them, and then you share me the information and we can look at it. All right, Bianca, you have a questions. What are the biggest challenges company has developing and implementing the balance score? What are the biggest challenges? Okay, for me, Bianca, the biggest challenges is this. If you do scorecard, is that you don't develop it properly. That's the biggest challenge. I just want to share with you a very interesting part. The challenges is this. It's not about the development exercise. It has to be executed perfectly in the sense that all the necessary output has been developed. So what we do not want to have is this. By the end of January, okay, you are still very blurred. You have no clarities. So in other words, just come up with 4 perspectives is the last thing we want to do. So the other thing is, you ask me what is another biggest challenges is like this. This is something the top executive must commit the time. You cannot say no time. I will tell one thing, because if you spend these 10 days together with me, okay, let me tell you, and you commit your time to it, I will save you a lot of time, and I will help you to even be more organized and more effective how you want to drive the business. So for me, is another challenge is please, you must commit your time. Sometimes I have these issues. Companies say, oh, we are very busy. So if top executives are so operational mindset, I would tell one thing is you have to change the way how you look at it. You must allocate time, okay, to actually look at corporate strategy. I also do not want to come up with just to make it look very good, because sometimes we develop corporate strategy. Very simple. I show this is what you should have corporate strategy. But the question is it the right corporate strategy or not? Looks very good on paper, everything very good, is a white elephant. That's the last thing we ever want to do. And I see many white elephants. Everybody use many tools, come up with all these things, but they're white elephant. We do not want to have a white elephant. All right. So that's very important. My goal to all of you who attended the session, okay, that's my commitment, and I want to make sure that you're very clear, you understand how to drive your business, and you take your business to the next level. Because if you come in here, it's not just to come up with scorecard, then no point. So Bianca, I hope I've answered your question on that part of it. All right. Okay. So guys, please come in for the workshop, because it's a very special workshop. Of course, I've limited to only 20 companies. That means the total number of participants should only be 40 if all the 20 company comes in. All right. All right, guys. That is all that I have to share with you. Unless anyone got any more questions, please feel free to ask me. All right, I'll go back to this one. Okay. Then the other thing is that, Pavi, can you just send the, okay, whatever that I presented to you is also multi-dimensional. So if you click onto your, what we call PDF files, you can do exactly what you do. You can click all these things. Everything will work in the PDF files. All right, please go in certain things. So Pavi already sent to you already. Please download the learning materials, okay, at the link. So please download it, because I always make sure that I'm not here just to share. Of course, I hope this 1 hour session is meaningful to you. And my intention is always to provide quality materials. I don't want here to tell you a lot of things at the same time. Yes, some people say, oh, we must make it very easy to understand. If it's technical, it's technical. Look, let's be very clear about it. Okay, even the step to develop concept is very technical. All right, it's not difficult, but you need to know the step-by-step approach to do it. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop my sharing session with you. Okay, let's see. Anyone got any more questions to ask? All right. Anyone got any more questions to ask?
All right, everyone. If you have any question, this is the best time to ask question to Anthony. Right. Thank you, Bianca and Ruben, for also asking questions before this. Anyone else? Okay, I think everyone's quite clear, Anthony.
Okay, I hope so. But anyway, I hope that you learn something. I mean, you might not learn a lot of things, but more important, I hope you learn something. And more importantly is play with it, use my learning tools. And I hope to see some of you come on board to my program, because I told you this, it's not something I'm going to do this program like every 3 months, every 6 months, probably maybe the most I do once a year, because we also focus on a lot of other things. But my intention is to help small, medium-sized enterprise. All right. All right. With this, Ziad,
right.
Thank you very much.
With this, thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Don't forget to download the
you just download first,
the material.
Download,
right. If you have any question, feel free to contact us. All right. You can contact me or Pavi. We'll gladly answer any of your questions.
Ziad, same thing. If some of you want to know the introduction of Balanced Scorecard, last one, those who have not attended, please send an email to us. Okay.
Yeah.
And, just send emails, and Ziad or Pavi will send you the video recording as well as the materials. Right. Learning is always very exciting, and my job is to make sure everybody learn as much as possible. All right. And learning is a continuous thing. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Take care.
Bye.